Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. An absolute pleasure to be able to speak to you today and have you here in London for the film festival. Maybe for people who aren't familiar with Triangle of Sadness, you can give us a bit of a taste of what they can expect.
Oh wow, this is a wild roller coaster ride. We had so much fun making it, and everyone's gonna have so much fun watching it because it's when we were making it, we were really taking it seriously and kind of also seeing the humor. But after watching it on film, it's really so funny because it's kind of a reflection of ourselves. So it's exciting to always watch yourself on screen. So everyone's gonna have fun watching an influencer couple getting on a yacht and feeling really entitled, and then everything gets turned around. They get on an island, don't know how to survive with other billionaires, and a very nondescript, in almost invisible cleaning lady just turns everything around. So it's really exciting and fun and funny.
I mean, I saw the film in Cannes and it just stayed with me for such a long time. And I felt like it was one of those films, I was gasping, I was laughing out loud. I mean, when you first read the script, did it just jump off the page to you? And could you have envisaged, the end product as we see it now?
It really did. It really jumped up off the page. You really put it perfectly, Sarah. It was just unbelievable, especially the part of Abigail was so exciting for me because, playing a woman who is perceived as weak, perceived as powerless, or with no real, strength or power in this world, but then she's given an opportunity to really show the leader that is in her and change everybody's lives and basically save lives on that island. So yeah, and it's really exciting to watch that happen and to go through the whole process of discovering her and finding her voice and all that was, yeah, I hope everyone enjoys it as much as we enjoyed making it.
And how did you prepare to play Abigail? I mean, how much could you kind of relate to her? Where would you maybe say that you have differences? And I guess kind of thinking about her context and maybe her backstory, like what's driving her, into the person that we see when they're finally on that beach and she's just taking control of the whole situation.
Well, Abigail and I are really actually were very different because she's, I'd like to think I'm strong, but I'm definitely not as strong as her, not as strong willed. She has that, grab life by the balls, if you will. She just has no apprehensions about just standing up and taking on the role of leader. So going through that whole process of creating her and really building a human that I can really portray in the most realistic way because I mean I don't know about the process of other actors, but me as an actor I really need to find a reason why a character I'm playing does things, and it I know that there's also a saying in our world that we have to trust the script, but sometimes we have to find justifications of why we say things or why we do things. So I had to create a really solid backstory about her history, where she grew up, why does she have those skills, why does she choose to do what she does, why does she make those choices, and it's all really based on how she grew up, where she grew up, her life experiences, and her experiences with men also, not just her family or her parents. So it was really a very in-depth process that I had to go through by myself, and I presented it to Ruben, and because Ruben is he's a very giving director. He's really very considerate of how actors feel comfortable in the choices that we make, and he respected that, and he really was able to help me find her. So it was really through that collaboration with Ruben which really helped me lend a voice to Abigail and share her story with the world.
And am I right in thinking that you even added this line where Charlie's character asks, oh, what about your kids? And that, well, I don't have children. So
Yes.
little tidbits like that, which kind of, perhaps just make us realize where she's coming from.
Right, because yes, I had to ask Ruben, actually, that happened like the day before I knew we were filming that scene, because that scene was really very important to me. I knew that that scene was pivotal, so I really need to first of all, find out why Abigail even is going through a dilemma. Why does she even contemplate on such an act? And it had to be because she has no family at all, no parents, no husband, no children. Because, when there's not so much at stake in your personal life, then you're more risky in your choices, right? And you're more adventurous, or you're more bold in your choices. At least I feel as a mother, I'm safer in my choices because I have to think of them, their welfare. But she is beholden to no one else but herself. So it had to be very clear to me. So yeah, I had to ask him, can we add that when Yaya asks Abigail, at least you get to see your children, and Abigail says, no, I don't have children. It was very important for me to be able to say that, because again, that also drives the point that even if they were on the island for a long time, they never really had a, a deep relationship. Because why did it take Yaya that long to find out that she was without a family, without a husband? It just goes to show that no man, even if you're sometimes in a position of power, it's hard to get up close and personal with someone, and it's hard. It's a challenge to establish rapport and build a relationship. And I think that line really lays the groundwork for the kind of relationship Abigail had with everyone else on the island. It was very superficial, very superficial relationship.
And you were mentioning a bit about their working with Ruben and kind of the collaborative approach. I mean, what is he like as a director? I mean, looking at his films, it looks like it must be a bit of a roller coaster ride that you have to go on to make one of his films. But what was it like for you?
Yeah, it really was a roller coaster ride. Oh my gosh, working with Ruben. He's really a dream to work with. He really opens up the doors to being creative. He helps us find it, as we say. He helps us explore, and he's very open to suggestions. He's very open to whatever we have in our heads and in our hearts, our concept of what the character is supposed to be. He's very collaborative and very welcoming, but he also asks a lot of questions, which also helps you find answers. He asks questions: would Abigail do this? Would you do this? Would you say this? Like, for example, in the scene where Abigail is walking with Yaya when they're going to the other side of the island, and I talked to him and I asked him, I think that Abigail should apologize to Yaya because, she did get in the way of her relationship with Carl. So, and he told me, yeah, sure, yeah, we can try that. Okay, let's try it. And then the next day when we were all, and I felt good about that because, when a director is very welcoming with your suggestions, it really opens up the floodgates of creativity. But then the next day when we were on set, he said, Dolly, I think that maybe it won't work if you apologize, because then he explained it very well, and it made sense because then I would be bowing down to her, and that is not Abigail's character. So sometimes that also gets in the way my personal interpretation of how a person would act. And he also grounds us very well, and that's a director's job, to keep us on the right track.
And coming to your fellow cast, I mean, have to first of all just make mention of the really tragic loss of Charlie, but you shared some incredible scenes in this film, and I imagine you had such a great connection. So what was it like working with her?
She's also a dream to work with. She's, first of all, more than being a brilliant actress that she is, she's a wonderful human being. She wears her heart on her sleeve, and she's so down to earth and real and very welcoming and accessible, so warm. She really, I don't think the film would be what it is without her, because she really put so much into the character, so much depth and such humanity and empathy, which I think is not so hard if you already have that in you, and she had it in her. She had that very sensitive side of being human, because it's not easy being human, right? But because she has that sensitivity, she was able to apply that in how she approached Yaya. So I don't think it would have been the same if Yaya were played by another actor. She really is. I miss her.
I can imagine. And of course, Harris Dickinson, who just seems to, his star seems to be very much on the rise and done so many fascinating roles already. But in this one particular, and really kind of locking on to those comedic moments. And then, of course, the brilliant kind of storyline that develops between your two characters. So what was he like on set as well?
Yeah, well, Harris is really, his acting is very nuanced. I noticed that when I was watching the film, but also while we were working on scenes together, he's very in the moment. He doesn't, sometimes when you're in a scene with an actor, you kind of can read what's going on in their eyes, like they're panicking or they're thinking of the next line or what to do or planning ahead. He's not like that. He's just really in the moment, and he's a very generous actor. And he's very talented, obviously, and I look forward to see what he's going to do next because he has a lot of potential.
And of course, Woody Harrelson, who we know from so many amazing films, and that scene on the boat where everything is just exploding, and he is just hilarious. And had you ever, thought about working with him? Was he what you expected?
Unfortunately, we didn't have a scene together because of COVID. We were supposed to, but we had to make certain adjustments because of COVID. However, I did meet him in Cannes, and he's just like a regular guy. He's very down to earth and friendly, and I kind of forgot for a second that he was famous and he's a celebrity because he has, I mean, he's not like this, superstar-y guy who's, overconfident or no. He's cool. I mean, he's like someone that, would be nice to be friends with. Really cool guy. Yeah.
And there are some incredible scenes and set pieces in this film. What were some of the standout moments for you on set, or maybe some of the really challenging moments?
Oh, the most challenging moment was the fishing, really. It was the fishing. It was swimming all the way to that rock. It looks like it's nearby, but it's really far. It's quite a swim. It's like 30 feet or something like that. So it's a good thing I'm a good swimmer. So that was really tiring. I was really exhausted after that. And I think that the really most fun part, the most fun part about the filming was with the whole ensemble because they're such great people and great actors to work with. So it was just like playing on set. It was so much fun, even if I was going into every day really nervous because, it can be quite intimidating. But they made everything so easy. They made everything fun. So, yeah, I mean, if you're working with a great team, things become so much lighter and easier and so much more fun. But that's not to say it wasn't easy. It was also hard because, we were really on an island and it was really, it was freezing cold and I'm not used to that kind of weather. So, yeah, it had its share of challenges. I actually called it like hell on heaven because it was really tiring, and Ruben knows this, and he laughs whenever I say this because it sounds like I'm complaining, but no, that's part of it. I'm really proud of this film because it's not like something that just came out of the blue. We really worked really hard over it, and yeah, it was a roller coaster ride. Really, it was.
And when you've seen the film, the finished film, were even some of the scenes mind-blowing to you? I mean, this bit where, everyone's vomiting and it's just turns to total chaos. I mean, did you know how it was going to look in the finished film? I mean, it's just crazy.
No, what? The funny thing is, you read the script, right? And you have your own idea of how things are going to play out. I was reading the script and I already knew that this is a really great script. This, I mean, when you've read a lot of scripts, you know what's good and what's not. And I knew it was great. But then watching it on screen, I was like, wow, Ruben is really crazy for him to execute it that way because I really don't like vomiting scenes and puking scenes. But when I was watching it, I was laughing so hard. It was really hilarious the way he... And what's funny is, you have this one scene where this woman, Sunyi Miles, is vomiting, and this guy is just, dusting off his shirt and going back to eating. And those are the funny things. Those are the little nuances that really make this film funny. It's very nuanced.
And I mean, the thing that I couldn't get out of my head when I was sat in Cannes, which of course is one of the most prestigious festivals, with a lot of kind of the glitterati of the world, and then this very biting satire of exactly, that world that they're from.
Yeah.
So what do you make of kind of the themes and how it is kind of poking fun, I guess, at, the ridiculousness sometimes of our class system, of our wealth hierarchy? What do you think some of the themes are?
You know what? The reception in Cannes was really astounding because they were really laughing at everything. And that's great. But then at the same time, you're thinking, do you know that you're laughing at yourselves? Maybe not all of them, okay? Not in general, because it was a huge audience, but some of them were. And I think it's really great if we can just laugh at ourselves when we're being silly and we're being stupid and we're being ridiculous. And it takes a certain amount of wisdom and maturity to be able to recognize that and actually laugh at ourselves. It's actually the people who don't find it funny who have to reflect and think, why don't I find it funny? Maybe because I see myself and I don't like what I'm seeing and I don't want to be that way. So yeah, I think that the audience in Cannes, they were very mature because they were able to laugh at a reflection of themselves that's not very flattering.
Mm-hmm. And just seeing how obviously everything gets turned on its head towards the end. And in terms of the takeaways from that, I mean, once you strip away social media, have you even been to that island unless you can post a selfie? When you don't have your money and your status behind you, if you don't have survival skills, does it make everyone have to look inward a bit and see, right, well, who am I and how do I judge myself as a person? And how would I survive in that situation?
Yeah, and actually that's what's great about the film is because it really poses a lot of questions. When you're watching it, you're like asking yourself, I wonder what I would do if I were in that position. Like, in the world that we live in today, because of, the internet, we're so, like, young kids are so influenced by all of these people who have a strong need to always look good. And it's actually very superficial because those are very happy pictures, but we don't really know what's going on. So I think that's also a huge lesson on humanity, on how we tend to put on a face, like a mask, and pretend like everything's good. It's just magnified even more by the internet because it's far-reaching. It's very, it's a network of communication where everything is more accessible. So if, like, for example, when I was young, it was magazines, right? Now it's everywhere. It's on my phone. It's everywhere. So, yeah, I think that it's, if you look at my Instagram, it's nothing like that. I can say that, it's nothing against people who like posting their photos every single time, especially if they look good. Why not? But I just wish sometimes that we would also think of who's watching us, and they may be setting very high expectations about themselves, and sometimes what we portray online is not realistic, and it's okay to be real because at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all trying hard to survive and to navigate this crazy world, and it's okay to be human and to be imperfect. I think that's what makes us beautiful. And, I'm not young anymore, and I have my share of wrinkles, but I'm proud of my wrinkles because that's, I've been through a lot, and these are like battle scars. And I think that it's something to really be proud of. If you love plastic surgery, if you want to change your face, that's great. But it would be great if we would be realistic about it. And when we share things to the world, that we make it clear that this did not happen overnight. You cannot turn to this magically. This takes a lot of work. Just so, especially the kids will be more aware of the realism of aging, and that beauty is subjective. It's it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to look a certain way to be beautiful. Everyone is beautiful in their own way.
And do you think another kind of takeaway, if that doesn't sound too corny, is like, treat others how you want to be treated yourself. And this thing of thinking that you're somehow entitled, or you look down on people, or you don't treat people with kindness, can come back to bite you in the ass, basically, So there's a definite message in that sense.
Oh, exactly. I mean, just like Abigail on the island, if anyone had shown her some semblance of kindness or, mutual respect, maybe she had handled things differently when she was in power, so to speak. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, and that's one thing I struggle with too. It's not easy to be kind all the time because, sometimes you're having a bad day or you're in a bad mood, and it takes a lot of work to be kind. But, I'm not one to preach. It's not easy to be good and to be kind. I mean, I know I've had my share of being a bitch, especially in my youth. I was a really bad bitch when I was young. I had a short temper, so I'm really a work in progress. And it would be great if we all work together to just be kind and treat everyone equally, even if the way the world is constructed, we're not really equal. I like to think that we are, and I like to treat people equally, regardless of your status in life, regardless of how powerful, beautiful you are. And I also believe in karma, and I believe that you reap what you sow. So it's hard, but it's worth it. It's worth the effort of being kind and being good to people. And at the end of the day, we feel better anyway when we're nice, right? And when we're good.
And I wonder if there's also a kind of sense of catharsis, or for audiences to be able to watch this film, it's almost like taking revenge on the structures and the injustice in our world and how unfair it is, and how that gap between rich and poor just seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And some people have to work 3 jobs, every day in order to get by, and other people are sat on their yachts, with too much and that they could share with others. So do you think there's something in that as well? Kind of like watching this can take a bit of satisfaction in that?
Yeah, I think it really does give you a certain amount of satisfaction watching that, these people are getting, well, Abigail's getting, it's payback time, it's your turn to suffer. It does give you a sense of relief, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it should be. I think that the problem really with Abigail's choices is that she saw how she was handled when she was a cleaning lady, and she figured, okay, so this is how you want to do it, then this is how I'll do it too. And I think that's a really nice study on human behavior and how we tend to react to grievances that are done against us. Because I personally, I would probably choose to, well, I don't really know unless I'm in that position. Who knows? Maybe I do the same thing. But I'd like to think that I'd be kinder. I'd like to think that I'd be more nurturing and more caring towards people, even if they're mean to me, even if they hurt me. Maybe I'd like to think that I choose the right way to go. Maybe it's not easy sometimes, but I think that the struggle to be kind and to be good should never end.
And I don't want to give too much away, but at the end, do you think it's an ambiguous ending, or for you, is it more clear-cut than that?
I think it depends on where we are as people, how we see the ending. And I think that whatever ending you think it is, you should ask yourself a question: why do I think it ends this way? Why do I think the film ends like this? Maybe I have a view of the world a certain way, or maybe I think of people a certain way. So it's a very reflective kind of question of ending, because I think it says a lot about us as people, why we think it ends a certain way. I think it really depends on us, on the viewer, on what we think the ending is. Of course, me as an actress, I have my own ending. Secret, I'm not sharing that with you. But maybe if I meet you one day and we talk about it, extensively, I'll tell you. And maybe off camera, I'll tell you, Sarah. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think that the audience should be respected to be able to come up with their own ending, because it's also like a lesson on ourselves, on how we think. Why do we think that Abigail does this? Why do we think that she doesn't do it? So it puts us in a certain frame of mind and reflection of why we would think that way.
And coming to your own kind of career and landing this role and the reaction that's been to it, what has that meant to you? And I guess perhaps as a Filipino actress, having this, sort of a very high-profile role in this, really big film, what does that mean for you in terms of representation on screen? And hopefully we're moving in the right direction.
It really means a lot to me, because to me this is opening a lot of doors for all of us Filipinos who are so talented and are just dying to put our talents out there. And it's also important that our stories are heard, because we have so many rich stories. We have a very rich culture, and I'm so glad that the film is receiving the attention and the recognition that it's getting now, because it's a very small film industry in the Philippines, and it's a small community that we have that we all know each other, and there are so many of us who have a lot to offer. So I hope that this opens the door even wider for Filipino talent to come out into the world and share the stories that the world needs to hear.
And the fact that it's kind of, an older woman who's leading the charge, taking control of her destiny, taking control of her desires, and with Harris Dickinson's character. And I feel like that's kind of exciting as well, that character.
Well, what's really exciting is that the Harris Dickinson's character is the one who gets, if you think about it, I'd like to think that maybe the sex that Carl and Yaya is having is very vanilla and boring, and Abigail brings a lot of excitement into it. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
People see it as, it's a young guy getting on with an older woman who is Asian, But I don't see it that way. I think that Carl is really having his eyes open now to what great sex really is, because I think Abigail is really good in bed. So it's the other way around.
And just very quickly, finally, what does it mean to you to be here in London, obviously from the reception you had in Cannes? And can you tell us what you might be working on next? Have you got a next role lined up?
Well, first of all, London is one of my favorite cities in the world. I've been here before in 2014, and I love it here. I just wish I had more time to watch shows. I do have 2 films that I'm filming in the Philippines, Itik Makpupukaw, which is coming out in Cinemalaya next year, and another one which is Keys to Your Heart, which is based on the Korean film, and I'm doing that also this year. So I'm very excited about that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And
Thank you, Sarah.
I really enjoyed presenting this film here in London. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.